What's up, our channel community, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, as you'll see in the thumbnail and title of today's video, we're going to be having a look at part 2 on my secret stash collection. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So we've got Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest 50th Anniversary Edition on the slipcover. Here's the back. Here's disc 1 and disc 2. Never Been Kissed. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Night at the Museum 2 with this cool cover. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Ocean's 11. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Peter Pan 2-disc special edition. Here's the back. Here's disc 1 and disc 2. Point Break on Blu-ray. Here's the back. Here's the Blu-ray. Pitch Black. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Pocahontas 2, Journey to a New World. Here's the back. Here's the disc. The Princess and the Frog. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Paranormal Activity 3. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Passengers. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Road Trip. Here's the back. Here's the disc. The Ring. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Rocky Balboa. Here's the back. Here's the disc. R.I.P.D. Rest in Peace Department on Blu-ray. Here's the back. Here's the Blu-ray. The Revenant. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train 2-disc special edition. Here's the back. Here's disc 1 and disc 2. South Pacific. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Step Up Special Edition. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Salt with this Blu-ray slipcover. Here's the back. Here's the Blu-ray. Spy Kids All the Time in the World. Here's the back. When I purchased this, it actually had a different Spy Kids movie. Spy Kids 2, The Island of Lost Dreams. Spy Kids Game Over. Here's the back. Here's the 3D version and the 2D version. Short Films Collection. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Star Trek Into Darkness. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Spy. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Tarzan. Here's the back. Here's the disc. And Traffic. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Now onto our second pile. We've got Lara Croft Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Then we got one of my favorite Blu-rays here. We've got Blu-ray 3D, The Adventures of Tintin, The Secret of the Unicorn. Here's the back. Here's the 3D, the Blu-ray, and the DVD. Take the Lead. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Unbreakable. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Wild Hogs. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Wall Street Money Never Sleeps on Blu-ray. Here's the back. This has got the Blu-ray and the DVD. Your Highness. Here's the back. Here's the disc. 13 Going on 30. Here's the back. Here's the disc. 45. Here's the back. Here's the disc. 127 Hours. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Double feature including Training Day and Fallen. Here's the back. Here's the disc. 3 golden classic movies including Charade, The Fast and the Furious Original, and The Hideaways. Here's the back. Here's the disc. 2 movie collector's pack including Sleepless in Seattle and Philadelphia. Here's the back. Here's Sleepless in Seattle and Philadelphia. 4 movie pack volume 8. Here's the back. Here's disc 1 and disc 2. Triple feature including Heaven and Earth, U.S. Marshals, and The Client. Here's the back. Here's Heaven and Earth. One of my favorite movies in this collection is U.S. Marshals and The Client. Then we got triple feature including Empire of the Sun, The Color Purple, and AI Artificial Intelligence. Here's the back. Here's Empire of the Sun, The Color Purple, and AI Artificial Intelligence. Family 5 DVD pack including Uncle Buck, Cutthroat Island, Drop Dead Fred, A Simple Wish, and Batteries Not Included. Here's the back. Here's Uncle Buck, Cutthroat Island, Drop Dead Fred, A Simple Wish, and Batteries Not Included. Robert De Niro Collection, 6 disc set. Here's the back. Here's Ronin, Hide and Seek, Men of Honor, Ragging Bull, The King of Comedy, and Stanley and Iris. 10 movie value pack Hollywood Leading Men. Here's the back. Here's disc 1, disc 2, disc 3, and disc 4. And to end off this video, we have got a twin feature box set of the Chronicles of Riddick and XXX. Here's the back. Here we got the Chronicles of Riddick. Here's the back. Here's the disc. And Triple X. Here's the back. Here's the disc. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. That concludes the Secret Stash collection. There will be more DVDs in future videos, so be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace!